Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa and I'm the owner of seasonandserveblog.com. In today's video, we are making a delicious Middle Eastern recipe called Arayes. In this recipe, a spiced beef mixture is stuffed inside of a pita and is grilled to perfection. The beef filling is similar to what you would use to make koftas, but instead stuffing inside of the pita and serving it with a nice refreshing cucumber, tomato, and onion salad really makes this dish super special. This is a super popular Lebanese dish, but it is also popular throughout the Middle East and in Egypt, where it's actually called Hawawshi. And once you try this dish, you will know exactly why it is so popular and delicious. So if you want to see how I make my Arayes, just keep on watching. We'll begin by making our spice blend, and this particular blend is known as baharat in the Middle East. So we're combining some ground coriander, cumin, black pepper, ground cardamom, smoked paprika, cinnamon, ground nutmeg, and some ground cloves into a small bowl. Then we're just going to simply mix everything up to combine. This spice mix is super bold, but it is also really nice and sweet, savory, and a little bit tangy, and it really goes great with any beef, fish, or lamb recipes. Once we have it mixed up, we'll just set this aside for now. Next up, we're going to chop up the vegetables that we're going to use in our meat filling. And here I'm just using half of a yellow onion in this recipe, and I want to make sure to chop the onion very fine so we're not biting into really big pieces of onion in the meat filling. You also want to make sure it's chopped really finely because you want to make sure that the onion cooks all the way through. And once your onion is finely chopped just like this, we're going to set it aside for now. Next up, we're going to chop our garlic, and again, we want to make sure that it's minced super finely in this recipe as well. Now this garlic clove was super large, so I'm just going to use one in this recipe, but if you have smaller garlic cloves, definitely use two. And once your garlic is finely chopped, we're also going to set this aside for later. And the final ingredient for our filling is some parsley, and I like to use both the leaves and the stems in this recipe because they have really great flavor. So again, I'm just going to finely chop it up into small pieces, and then we're going to set this aside. Next, we'll mix up the meat filling, and here I have some ground beef in a bowl, and we're going to add all the onions, garlic, and parsley right into the bowl. And once that's in, we're going to add our baharat spice that we made earlier, followed by a little bit of olive oil. And then with super clean hands, we are going to go ahead and mix everything to combine. And then partway through mixing, I forgot to add the salt, so I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to mix it until it's fully combined. Now in this recipe, I like to use extra lean ground beef because there's not a lot of fat in it, and if you use lean or regular ground beef, there's typically a lot of fat and it leaches out as it cooks and makes the pita really soggy, so definitely go for extra lean ground beef in this recipe. And now that our filling's all mixed up, we're ready to stuff our pita bread. So here I have some fresh pita bread that I just popped in the microwave for 30 seconds just to kind of warm them up and make the pita layers easier to separate. Now I'm simply going to use a sharp knife and cut the pita bread in half and then gently open each of the pita bread so that we have a nice pita pocket to stuff the meat in. Now just continue this process, separating the layers of each of the halves of pita bread, and once you're done, we are ready to stuff them. Now stuffing these is super simple. All you have to do is hold the pita pocket open and then add your meat filling to it. I added 2 really large tablespoons of the meat filling into each pita pocket, but the actual amount of filling that you'll need for your pita will depend on its size. But in general, I like to add the filling in and squish it down into a layer that's about 1 centimeter thick. And you want to make sure that this is evenly distributed throughout the pita from the bottom to the very edge of the pita along the cut side. So you might need to add or remove your filling as needed. But in the end, it should look just like this, with about 1 centimeter of filling going all the way across and filled right up to the edge. So now we're just going to continue this process by filling up the rest of our pitas. once your pitas are done, they should look just like this, and oh my gosh, don't they look delicious already. Now the final step before grilling is to brush each side of these pitas with olive oil. This will ensure that the pita gets nice and crispy and golden brown on both sides, and it adds lots of delicious olive oil flavor. So I use a silicone baking brush to brush each side of the pita with olive oil, and I am fairly generous with the olive oil just so that the pitas get nice and crispy and delicious. And once the Arayes are all coated in olive oil on both sides, we're going to take it over to the grill. Now to grill these, I am using a cast iron griddle pan, and I'm just going to brush it lightly with olive oil to ensure that the meat doesn't stick. And to begin cooking these Arayes, we're actually going to stand them up so that the meat is in contact with the griddle pan, and this will begin charring the meat and it will start to cook it. Now to make sure the Arayes don't fall over, I hold the back one with my tongs and then sort of lean the rest of them up against that one so that they can all cook. Now after about 3 to 4 minutes of cooking, you will see the meat get nice and charred just like this, and at this point we're going to lay them all down so that they're totally flat, and then we'll cook them for 3 to 4 minutes per side. After 3 to 4 minutes on the first side, we're just going to gently flip these over and get these charred on the second side. And at this point, you will be able to smell all of the delicious flavors in the air, and you will be dying to eat one of these. Now once the Arayes are charred on both sides and are firm to the touch, we're just going to remove them from the grill. And when I remove these from the grill, I like to place them on a cooling rack to ensure that the bottom of the pita doesn't get too soggy before you eat them. Now to serve up these Arayes, I just like to basically stack them on a plate and serve them with a delicious tomato, cucumber, and onion salad. And I also like to serve these alongside with a bowl of creamy garlic sauce, otherwise known as toom, or a nice tahini sauce really works well with this recipe. And that is my recipe for homemade Arayes. As you can see, this recipe is super simple, and I highly recommend trying it out if you haven't had Arayes before. So if you want to make this recipe, you can find the full recipe with all of the measurements and directions on my blog, and I will leave that linked in the description box below. And while you're there, don't forget to check out all the other delicious recipes that I have on my website as well. And finally, if you enjoyed today's recipe video here on YouTube, please make sure you hit the like button down below as well as the red subscribe button to get more yummy recipe videos just like this one. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.